One thing that most people don't understand about, this sport is that if you think about franchises like the NFL, the NBA, there are roles that people play. We decided to really break it down for you. Who is it that you need in your camp? And if you know that, then you never have to worry about why my camp continues to get to this particular level and then we lose. And over the course of my 4 decades in a boxing sport, there was an avid curiosity for me. And that curiosity basically led me to pay close attention to the people that my mentor, my coach introduced me to. Okay, real legends. But I also noticed a lot of the different roles that were being played. After a while, I realized the roles were played. The only thing that was relevant at the early stages is that I was always overwhelmed with excitement, because when you get into a sport, you don't choose that sport. That sport chooses you. You were born with particular gifts, and when you use your gifts the right way, you start to pull the laws of attraction towards you, and you get the opportunity to circumvent those abilities, those talents that you have. Well, see, leaders don't play in the back, and people who are in the back behind the dashboard, they don't play in the front because their abilities line up with what they were born with and the role that they were directed to. See, there's always more of a higher calling that's going on. And when I got to see different people over the course of time, I noticed that this person never speaks during this particular time. He stands out of the way. But this person, why is he working with his fighter? And you'll see a lot of different intricate pieces and movements happening, but I never knew why. And no one volunteers a lot of information. Do they volunteer information? Sometimes, yeah, but it's what they want to volunteer. Because at some point in time, you have to realize there's a reason why you can't hear it all or learn it all at one time, because it's an abundance of information when you're in the sport of boxing. So I don't know exactly where it is that you're watching from, but what I would tell you is this is a franchise. It's not one guy who's throwing punches and another guy who's throwing mitts and another guy who's talking. The roles, there are double digits roles that are being played in the sport of boxing. And as I continue to learn by seeing and witnessing, going into fights and knowing there's a role that you play in, and until you are ordained as that role, in that role, you don't play it. You're just present and you're cultivating information. You're sponge, you suck it up, and it takes several years for that light to turn off, that green light. When you're in a sport and you're getting introduced to all of these things, there are things that constantly continue to surface that you, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I wasn't aware of that. Oh, whoa, what is they doing? What are they doing? That's a constant thing. You see a guy doing something particular or telling a guy an instruction, and then you hear someone else say something totally different. And so before you understand why that is happening, you start to develop and you start to become. And what we made clear to our trainers in our program, and some of you who don't know me, my name is Coach Eric Bradley, and I've been in the sport of boxing for 4 decades, and I'm third generation. When I say third generation, I mean that I came up under the tutelage of two other former legends, current legends, and when you go to that kind of a university, you learn from a different pool. You're learning, well, when you get an entree delivered, it's the entirety of the sport of boxing. So you get diced up, just portions at a time, even though you're looking at it from an entire point of view. There are a lot of you who are in the sport right now, and you know how to work with fighters really good and you're doing a good job, there are just so many more layers to it that you have to learn. So when I speak about this, I do it because I wanted you to understand that you don't rush yourself to get to particular levels, because you have to build what we call an army as you are going, and the team that goes around those individuals that you're working with. In the minute that you learn how to do that, and that what is required. So what I've done years ago is I wanted my individual trainers in the Champions University program to know what they were going to need. So we had to create a breakdown of it. And so what I did is broke down every coach and every component and every individual and what their roles were, so that it's very clear that you're not just acting conceited because you think a pair of mitts or a body vest is going to get your fighter to the highest level of boxing. That's just like because I'm throwing a football with my son in the backyard that he's going to win the Super Bowl next month. See, that's the misconception in most individuals who are in the sport. Because they're active, they feel like that's the recipe to get there. Why do you think there are less than 30 champions in the sport of boxing collectively, real champions, and there's 8 billion people on the planet? Are you going to be amongst the elite 30, the best in the world, the people who've done it smarter than everybody else? They've collected, they've understood, they know what the process is, they understand the politics of boxing, the sanctioning bodies, they know the rules of the promotions. They truly understand all of those different layers, from the medical, the sports performance side, tactically, all of those things. You mean there are hundreds of thousands of pages that are written in the sport and about the sport of boxing, centuries old, that you know all of that already without going through it? That's impressive. Well, what I was here to do with our guys is to teach them by way of giving them the right information and writing it out and making it clear. And I've learned from, by the way, when you've been in 10 training camps that were for championships, then you have some decent experiences. But when you've been in over 40, those first 10, they only gave you a little more experience than the guys who've never been in one. So over 40 camps, advising, tactician, overseer, all of these different roles, these aren't announced to you when you come into the sport. There's no university until now, Champions University. There was no university that broke the whole entire game down to you until we did it. There are a lot of different ways that you can explain to people, but one of the things that was my superpower was I like to see things in written form, because until it's written, I understand human beings learn by sight, and they learn by touch, and they learn by actions. Okay, practical teachings are a thing, but we also have the frontal cortex, and that's in the front of the mind. That is when it photographically sees something and captures it. Hence is why there's always a better visual presentation, so that it makes it clear. When you can see a map of something, it really clarifies what you just experienced. And so therefore I had to make it so I can digest it. And when I did that, I did it in the midst of many different training camps over the course of time, acknowledging and notifying and being aware of each one of these roles. So I documented them all over the course of 4 decades. I took every bit of information that was given to me by my mentors, my coaches, 4 Olympic tenures of knowledge, Olympic tenure. There's just a lot of understanding and a lot of different legends. And by the way, all of the greatest fighters that have ever laced them up in the Olympics were a part of those conversations. You know, it's humbling, and the amount of humility that I feel when I'm sharing conversation and intimate details about it with my guys that have decided, hey, I want to roll up under you. I want to learn this stuff. I want to learn it in a way that people don't know it. You can learn two different ways. You can get what we call spot check, spotty learning, which is kind of what 99% of people are doing. Or you can learn systematically. And that means day after day, just like you were when you were in school. And then there are no holes and there are no gaps in your learning. So that's the reason why I wanted to do it that way. And their intel became what we call affirm your position. And affirm your position is all of these different roles, because I've been called up to be over the nutrition because I was a nutrition specialist. I've been called upon to be tactician because I understand techniques like not a lot of people. I mean, that's just kind of what I am. I've been OCD all my life. When it comes down to anything, I'm very tactical. And when it comes to technique, I can refine someone's technique to a point that it's close to flawless when it counts, not just shadow boxing and punch logistics. I mean, really, when it counts in the smoke, when the smoke is not settled, but in the midst of the flame. And this is one of the more interesting conversations because it really gave me cause to say to people, are you really understanding what you're a part of? You're a part of the NFL. There are so many different layers to it. And I got an opportunity to sit in those war rooms in the NFL as well, the foxhole in boxing, meaning in those dire straight moments where the most critical decisions were being made. And I was able to take in the information. So, who do you need in the camp? Who do you need in this camp that will refine and secure the best chance at victory? And why is it that these fighters are coming up and some of them are your favorite fighters? And then when they get to the biggest stage, they lay an egg. And it's all about the construction of who's in that camp, what they do understand, and the holes that are there. They had the better athlete, they had the best weapon, they just did not have all of the strategic minds that were necessary, the people that play a role. And I'm here to make it very clear to you. I'm not here to put shine on myself at all. This sport is much bigger than any one of you who are watching right now. And I don't want you to think for 1 second that your role isn't important, but you're not the all and end all. This game was here before you got with it, and it'll be here way after you're gone. So don't allow yourself to get into that mindset that you're the reason something changed in this sport that's enormous, so enormous that you can't possibly put it in your own eyesight and look at it all at one time. This thing has a stratosphere much beyond your capable visibility. You can't even capture it all. So I want you to pay close attention to what is it that you don't know, because you will never lose a fight from what you know. It's what you don't know. And I wanted my guys to really understand. Why did I go as far as I did with the sport? Because 29 books of written content and how to do these things. Most of you are hopping all over that skills guide and things like that. And that gives you what we call that fundamental foundation where you're moving down that ladder and you're learning things that you would have never seen. And you got the kind of order that you would have never had Now, that's just simple, the skeletons, some of the outlining of what the actual fundamental programming is about. But now that's just level one, right? Then you go to the next level where you're learning the actual how to pull this thing together. If you're in the competitive world of boxing, now you have what we call a framework because now you're learning how to utilize it and operate and build yourself up. You know, as a trainer who's not just a trainer, but you're an entrepreneur, you're handling this athlete or this team more like a business, and you are not positioning yourself to get pimped, for lack of a better word, in the end. You're building your own personal brand. You're making it clear to the athletes how do they get the most shine upon them as they're growing and their dreams are coming true. Everything's coming full circle. It's coming to fruition because you're following a process of a guy considered to be a nut when it comes down to building, because there's no athletes out here that could come up against the educated athlete. The educated athlete takes every hour of his entire day and not just does it physically, but fills his minds, that hippocampus, and they don't allow anything. It's stamped in their frontal cortex. Everything in every ounce of their well-being has boxing. That's the kind of nut that I was, and that's the kind of nuts that I'm building, because every ounce of your body, when it's a tool, it's a weapon. When it's a weapon, it's unstoppable. The only thing that can get in your way is you. But you must understand all of the people that you need in order for this to all play out. And that's one of the main reasons I created exactly what was necessary. And it took a lot to do it. Today was the first day that people will actually get to see it in the coach's corner. And the reason why I did that is because these guys are going to have a leg up on anybody. I can look at any camp in the world and they might look great. And I've seen a bunch of great looking athletes. But one thing that I know that they don't have is all of this. And all of the coaches, I want you to know that be equipped, because you're not only just building an athlete or a team, you're building your entire legacy. I call it the franchise. We've done millions online, millions on the ground, tons and tons of relationships and endeavors when it comes down to building who you are as a brand. I'm one of the most notable educators in boxing in the world, bar none. I don't dress up for nobody else. I wear my own clothes and I do my own shows, because allowing the ability to build a brand based on making sure that you keep your responsibility or making sure that this sport stays true to the fiber of your lineage. This is generation 5, and our objective is to make sure that we give them the tools. And it's happening because the elevation of the national tournaments and those going into the pros now are going in on an entirely different level. I can see it. I notice the little details. There's guys who are in the amateur levels that have already developed their boxing craft, and that's supposed to happen within the first 5 years to 7 years as a pro. So I can only imagine what these individuals will have, and when they start to get to that next level. But I know this: we've written this science so that they can understand the map, because people are visual. You can tell a person something, they can see or do it, but people are visual. And so I want you to know that you're able to reflect on what it is that you need. Because I've played every single one of those roles. And it took years and years and years to become that guy who could do that and become the master of each one of those, understanding it from top to bottom. 4 decades in the game, over 40 title training camps, so many, many books. I can't even, like I said, there are books that are done and there are books that are written and just not published yet. So therefore, that is what it takes to get to the top level in the sport of boxing. So you have to ask yourself, what is it that you don't know? Because you don't know everything, because it takes a long time to know all of this. But you do have a place now in your mind that you can make sure those things are answered. So don't play around with this sport. Understand and know the roles. So for all of my coaches who are in Champions University, what I want you to realize is I want you to go up to the portal today and I want you to be the first ones to see every single role that's required for you to bring into camp in order for you not only to reach the highest level, but to reign at that level and to continue to build and permeate in the market space so that you have total control over your career. Whether you lose or win, nothing beats when you built your own personal brand, because this isn't about boxing. This isn't about legacy. This is about stature. This is about building you up. I've lived it. I'm living it. I'm passing it and I'm feeding the others who have that same mindset. If your mind is about being better than just one individual sport and you see bigger, you have a bigger vision, you know you are here for more, that's who I'm here for. Not for I like to learn spotty and all over the place. I'm all about gadget learning. We want professionals. And so for those of you who are watching right now, make sure that you do the things that will contribute to the sport and not make it about yourself. Special shouts out to all my coaches in Champions University. The Coach's Corner introduces to you affirm your position. Every position that you'll need filled to make it and surpass anything ever done in the sport of boxing. That's all I got. Coach Bradley, I'm out. Peace.